Thank you for joining Wars of the Rosies, and this is Why 3 Symbolizes Perfection by the Imperator, AMORC. An article from Rosicrucian Digest, Volume 29, Number 5, May 1951. Why 3 Symbolizes Perfection by the Imperator, AMORC. In hermetic and esoteric philosophy, the numeral 3 is often used to symbolize perfection. The geometrical form of the triangle, in turn, came to represent the figure 3 and inherited as well its symbolic meaning of perfection. In numerous systems of mystical philosophy, from the time of the Neoplatonic philosopher Plotinus down through the centuries, 3 has stood for the number of steps necessary for man's union with God. In some instances, the 3 steps or stages were subdivided, each having 3 such subdivisions, making a total of 9. There is every indication that the digit 3 was not arbitrarily selected to represent the state of perfection. It appears that, where perfection follows an order or a progression, the third stage to the intellect constitutes the culmination. No mysterious power to accomplish perfection is inherent in the numeral 3. The mind seems to find in the third stage of a process the conclusion which it is seeking. The idea arises from man's psychological reaction to his experiences. It is an excellent example of how our organism, the configuration of our bodies and minds, contrives to cause us to have notions which contribute to our philosophy of life. Opposite qualities. Almost every state or condition of which we have knowledge has a contrary. There appears to exist an opposite quality. Light and dark, cold and hot, large and small, up and down, good and evil, are but a few of the numerous dual qualities. It is not important for the consideration of this subject whether such a dualism is actual or imagined. However, darkness and evil, for example, are often conceived as not being positive qualities, but mere variations of their opposites. Where man cannot perceive an opposite quality, he will often imagine one with such clarity that it becomes a reality to him. For such example, there is no such state as physical space. There is, however, perpetual space. This latter is in the consequence of the sensations of sight and touch, where these senses perceive the absence of these sensations, which are realized as substance. There it is that space begins to our consciousness. Actually, we know this experience is false. The revelations of physics prove that this so-called space is in fact plenum of forces and energies. A state of equilibrium is to us a balance between two perceived or conceived opposite qualities. Balance is inertia, inactivity. In fact, if all things or states were to remain in constant balance, it might make it impossible for man to even imagine their opposites. It is because of the varying qualities of things that we experience their apparent opposites. It would be difficult to imagine darkness if there were not shadows or gradation of light. As a result of the lack of equilibrium in nature, we neither experience or we imagine opposites that have very positive qualities. Upon these we confer various values. Some are to our liking and others are not, depending upon the advantages they seem to afford us. Not infrequently, contraries may represent themselves to our minds as having equal value. However, neither one of the two may fulfill some purpose had in mind. In such an instance, each of the contraries is insufficient. Then again, they may appear as but alternate unsatisfactory ways of attaining an end. When the mind conceives two extremes, neither of which, to the reason, satisfies the intellectual desire. When the mental function of synthesis asserts itself, after putting the two most related experiences or ideas side by side and evaluating them, if the reason cannot make a selection as to which is best, it almost habitually combines them. This synthesis, or combining, as a third stage of a process or development is in extracting from each quality the elements most acceptable and uniting them into an order that proves an intellectual and emotional approval. The numeral 3 thus depicts a culmination. The mind has conceived the mean, that is, the difference between the opposites, which to it is the acme of its power of analysis. A cycle. The third stage, as a point of conclusion and perfection, is really the mind's attempt to avoid a state of equilibrium in experience. Actual equilibrium would cause mental and physical inactivity. The evaluation of experience causes the impulse that lowers one side of the scale or raises the other. Often this impulse is unconscious. Because of environment and education, we are inclined to favor one quality over another. We see in a thing or condition what to our minds and emotional and psychic selves appear as the best or the worst. Where things or states or ideas have an equal appeal, the process of synthesis is employed, and this too is often unconscious. Since the synthesis represents the finality of our powers of judgment as the third condition, it is to the human intellect the perfection of the whole mental process which is undergone. The third state, or the synthesis, is in reality a cycle which the mind passes in its judgment of experiences or notions. At this third state, it then arrives momentarily at a monistic concept, that is, at an idea which has a single quality. Whenever the mind can deduce from the new single idea at which it arrives a possible opposite, then still another cycle has begun. Once again, then, the mind is obliged to appraise separately and, by contrast, the two contraries. If it cannot select from these ideas one having a preferred value, it will more readily restore to synthesis again, rather than to abandon both and grope for new ones. The process of synthesis, symbolized by the numeral 3 and representing perfection, may often be unrealized. We may be only aware of one element or idea. By association, its contrary, its probable opposite, registered as a past experience in the subjective mind, becomes combined with it. The outgrowth of the two ideas then objectifies itself as an intuitive flash in our conscious mind. It assumes the role of an entirely new and separate concept. It appears to have no roots in the idea which was consciously had. In complex thought, the reason may synthesize in rapid succession, the mind passing through a number of cycles of 3, each third element combining with others, until the pyramiding reaches the limitations of the judgment of the individual. To the credit of the hermetic sages and philosophers of the past, it may be said that they realized this natural process, which occurred in the numeral 3, to become the symbol of perfection. In most instances, that is, with most persons, 3 was realized only as a final stage of a progression. There was no knowledge as to why it was so. This final stage made it appear as one of the mysteries of nature. This is perhaps why those who are superstitiously inclined have believed the numeral 3 to possess some latent power. To such persons, it has appeared that the numeral 3 conferred illumination upon any problem where it was brought to bear. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Rosies. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.